Let's start in the High Court in Pretoria. That's where, in fact, there'll be a special sitting this morning for one of the men accused of murdering soccer star Senzo Meyiwa. The session will clarify his legal representation following the death of his lawyer, Thulani Mngomezulu. The advocate passed away after being hospitalized last year. Muzi Sibiya, who allegedly confessed to the murder, must determine his next steps in the defense. Sibiya and 4 others are currently on trial for the 2014 murder of the soccer star. Watching developments, as always, is our senior reporter, Chriselda, who joins us now live from just outside court. And I imagine, Chriselda, a big part of what we're doing now is trying to figure out the different scenarios depending on how today goes.
Well, that's right, Ayanda. Essentially, accused number 1, Muzi Sibiya, holds the key to how this trial will proceed. Of course, as you correctly indicated, his legal representative, Thulani Mngomezulu, passed away late last year, just before court recess. So essentially what needs to happen now is this morning during this special sitting, he will make known who his new legal representative is. But you would remember, of course, just before we went on the break last year, we had heard that there had been some consultations with legal aid. And legal aid had basically suggested that Muzi Sibiya, who is accused number 1, as I indicated, could choose from one of the defense lawyers that are currently before this court. This, of course, would allow for the trial not to be interrupted any further, because if he does choose, now it would be his prerogative in terms of who he chooses going forward, whether it's going to be one of the defense lawyers that is currently in this particular matter, or whether he chooses another lawyer. Now, if he does choose another lawyer, Ayanda, that would mean that there could be a possible further delay in this matter. The reason being is that that lawyer would need to familiarize themselves with what the evidence has been brought before this court already, whether they would want to recall some of the other witnesses that have already taken the stand in this particular matter. So we'll hear this morning whether he chooses one of those defense lawyers or whether he will go with his own legal team. That will be made clearer once proceedings get underway at 10 o'clock here this morning. But one of the key aspects, of course, you would recall, is that Thulani Mngomezulu, who unexpectedly passed away last year, we heard he had been hospitalized, but prior to that, you would know that he had no longer been attending court proceedings. He had been quite ill on a number of occasions, seeing early adjournments to this particular case. And Judge Gauteng, who's the presiding judge in this particular matter, then had suggested that he follow proceedings online from home. And you saw some of the other defense lawyers stand in for him from time to time. So as a result of that, of course, the trial itself would not be able to continue without him being, legally represented. Of course, this would be accused number 1, Muzi Sibiya. But one of the key questions that, would arise from this particular matter is that in speaking to one of, the legal experts yesterday in preparation for today, this is Ulrich Roux, who's an attorney, he basically told me that one of the key aspects that would need to be taken into account is that there cannot be any conflict of interest should Muzi Sibiya decide to go with one of the defense lawyers currently in this particular matter. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
In this instance, it makes sense for him to brief one of the other attorneys who's already on record for one of the other accused, given that they would be familiar with everything that has thus far been placed on record and all the evidence that has been led thus far, and that would hopefully not cause any further delays in the matter. The further difficulty with that is, of course, that there can be no conflict of interest. So if his version differs from the accused person whose legal representative he decides to appoint, then that could obviously pose some difficulties. An example of this could be where he could place blame on one of the other accused, or one of the other accused places blame on him. That would obviously necessitate a different attorney being briefed, because he would not be able to have the same attorney representing him in that instance. So one would have to now wait and see what he indicates to the court on Wednesday in this special sitting, and whether the court is satisfied that the attorney who he briefs is not conflicted, and that it would not cause any further delays in the matter.
Well, Ayanda, it'll be very interesting to see what those revelations will be here this morning. I think in anticipation, the Meyiwa family, of course, who've been waiting for justice, for such a long time, are hoping that there aren't going to be any further delays in this matter. But of course, it is accused number one, Muzi Sibiya's constitutional right to choose whosoever he wants to represent him going forward. But of course, as I indicated, legal aid in those brief consultations that were held last year, saying they would hope that he would choose one of the legal representatives that is currently in this particular matter, who is representing the other accused. But there's the issue of conflict of interest, of course, which I think these legal representatives would have during this particular break that we've had since last year, looked into ahead of making a decision on whether they would be amenable to representing accused number one, Muzi Sibiya. So we wait to see in court this morning how all of that is going to pan out.
Indeed we do. Chriselda Lewis, for now, thanks very much indeed. Chriselda reporting live there from the High Court in Pretoria.